Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to be finishing up Notes 3.4, so we're going to call it Notes 3.4 Part 2. Today we are going to be drawing our own lines, so again, if you make sure you have something to make a straight line, whether it's an old Metro card that you found, or of course, a ruler if you have one, but more importantly, your ID or anything to help you make a straight line. All right, so here we go. Today we are going to talk about standard form. Now, it just says standard form, but there are a lot of different standard forms in math. So we're going to say the standard form of a line. Remember, we are only drawing lines right now in the beginning of this school year here. So standard form of a line. So it says to graph AX plus BY equals C. See, that right there, even though they didn't mention it, that's what standard form looks like of a line. So standard form. This is for a line, and again, one of the reasons we know this is a line, look at the power of x. The x has a power of an invisible one. So does the y, of course, but that's what kind of indicates that we're dealing with lines, the fact that everybody has, the variables have a power of 1. So it says to graph these, well, we're going to use a skill that we already practiced in class. We're going to find the x-intercept, and remember that's where we cross the x-axis, and we're going to use the y-intercept as well. So we do need those two pieces of information in order for us to actually draw these lines. And then it says draw a line that passes through both of these intercepts. So you see, here's the thing. When I'm looking at this picture, right here, this very special point known as 0b, well, notice your x is 0, but now your y, right? It's touching the y-axis. Well, that's why we call it a y-intercept. And then when I'm looking at this point here, well, this one's touching the x-axis right there, that point, but notice, it's the y value that's a 0. So, if it's touching the x-axis, and again, look at your y, it's a 0, then we call this the x-intercept, because it's where our line crosses the x-axis. And notice, the idea for today is going to be, if you can find these 2 points on the xy coordinate, we'll connect them so that we can create these lines. So again, when we have something in standard form, using intercepts is the easiest way to draw a line. All we have to do is find x-intercepts. So again, for an x-intercept, it is the point, okay, so I'm going to have an x, I'm going to have some number, but your y has to be a 0. That's the only way to remain on the x-axis. So that's why the note says we're going to let y equals 0, so we're going to plug it in, and we're going to solve for x, because that's why it's an x-intercept. We got to solve for that letter, and like we said, your point is always going to be written in this form. Again, look at that right there. I know they used a, x, it doesn't matter what we use there, but we want to find that value. For my y-intercept, so here's that yellow one in our picture. The x-intercept was our orange one, if we want to give it some color to match our picture there. For my y-intercept, well, again, it's what we mentioned earlier. When we write it as a point, I am finding a y value. But for me to land on this dot right here, on this y-axis, notice your x always has to be a 0. That's why we always make our x equal to 0. And so that's what the note says. We're going to let x equal to 0. Remember, I want the y, not the x. And just like last time, I'm going to solve for the letter y. So it's a pretty straightforward concept. If you want a y-intercept, then solve for the y. But you got to get rid of the x. And look, the easiest way to get rid of x, turn it into a 0. If I want an x-intercept, what do? Solve for x. But you got to get rid of that y, and the easiest way, turn it into a 0. So remember, all we're doing is plugging in. So let's put this into practice so we can try it out first here. All right, just to give you a moment to catch up with the writing in case you need it. All right, we're going to slide it up a little bit. You'll still be able to see most of that there. In fact, I want you to be able to see it there. Okay, so here comes our very first problem, where we're going to graph our own line using intercepts. So use the intercepts to graph the following equation. All right, well, here we go. First things first, I want an x-intercept. Okay? All right, well, look, I'm going to copy the equation, 2x plus 4y is equal to 12. There, I just copied the equation. I didn't do anything else, just copied it down. But remember, if I'm trying to do an x-intercept, then the rule is y has to be a 0. Well then, here I go. 2x plus 4 parentheses equals 12. That's where my 0 goes. And then if you think about it, well, what's 4 times 0? Well, what's anything times 0? It's 0, so then it's gone, completely gone. I don't need to write 0. All I care about is I have a 2x left, and then I have a 12 left. So all I do now to finish, remember, how do you get rid of a number that's next to a letter? Well, they're multiplying, so then we're going to do a little division. It's what we've been doing for 3 units now. So then x is equal to 6, and there it is. My x-intercept is the 6, and don't forget your y value, that's the one that we turned into a 0. And so now I'm going to take a moment and look for it over here. And I know it's just off the grid. Look at that, 6, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say that is 6 right there. In fact, I'm going to stretch out the little line right here. Remember, this is the x-axis. This number needs to be on the x and nowhere else. That's where I'm going to put our first dot. That's my x-intercept right there. Well, now they said, okay, well, you've done that. So now, let's find the y-intercept. So for my y-intercept, well, remember, I want to solve for the letter y. So if I want to solve for the letter y, then just like it says here, let x equal to 0 and then solve. So remember, I'm going to make x equal to 0. Just like earlier, I made y equal to 0. Well, now I'll make x equal to 0. So here's my equation. I'm just going to copy it down first. But we said the x, I shouldn't write the x down. I should be writing a 0 in its place. Plus 4y is equal to 12. And then remember, 2 times 0 is 0. So then we stop writing it. It's just a 0. So why waste our time putting it down? Right, writing it down. And then again, how do you get rid of a 4 that's right next to a letter? Well, they're multiplying, so we divide by 4. And so we get y is equal to 3. But again, I'm going to make it official. This was my x-intercept over here. So my y-intercept, okay, let me put my parentheses. You found the 3 here. Well, that's because your x was the 0. And again, when you're drawing this point, you have to remember, you have to be on the y. That's why it's called the y-intercept. So I'm here on the y. No, it's not a -3, so I should be going up to +3. I draw my dot, and there we go. I am now ready to draw our very first line in this class using this technique. And there's our line. All I have to do is connect my 2 dots. But again, you have to remember first where to draw them, but most importantly, how to find them. So there's my x-intercept and my y-intercept. All right, let's try this again. Remember, we're using intercepts to help me draw lines. So basically, I'm just finding 2 easy points, drawing them, connecting them. Let's go with letter B now. So we already see the example here on top. All right, so for letter B, be careful. It does have a -8 involved this time, but that's okay. That doesn't change anything. All right, so remember the process. We're going to make the y equal to 0. If I want an x-intercept, I have to make the y equal to 0. So I'm going to start here. So here's my x-intercept. All right, so I'm looking at my equation. Here's our equation. I'm going to use the same one over and over. And it says -8x plus 12y is equal to 24. Now notice, I said y, but I never wrote it because you're not supposed to. Remember, if you are finding an x-intercept, we don't want to see the letter y. We're going to replace that with a 0. And by replacing it with a 0, well, 12 times 0 is 0, so it is gone. Leaving me with negative, don't forget, 8x is equal to 24. And then again, please be very careful here. How do you get rid of this -8 that's in front of the x? And if you're thinking addition, again, please be careful. There's only one thing you can do. Look, they're right next to each other. Only division will allow you to move a number that's directly next to a letter. And I'm trying to get rid of the negative 8, not a positive 8. No, I'm trying to get rid of the negative as well. So they're gone. X is equal to, now here's where we use our rules, a positive divided by a negative, according to the word wall, it's a negative. 24 divided by 8, well, that's just a 3. And there it is. Look, my x-intercept is the point, -3, comma, and my y value was a 0. So when I go and draw it, keep in mind, it's called an x-intercept. Then you better be on this x right here. Right? We have to be on the x. And it's a -3, so make sure you're not going this way. There it is. There's my x-intercept for this one. All right, well, we found the x-intercept, so now let's take a moment and find the y-intercept. But again, we're using the exact same equation. So when I do my y-intercept, see, here we go. So y-intercept, all I'm going to do is make the x equal to 0. So it's -8. I don't want the x. I'm looking for a y. Notice that's why I left the x blank. Plus 12y is equal to 24. Remember, you're solving for y. I don't want to see the x. In fact, we said replace it with a 0. Because one, I need to be on the y-axis, but more importantly, look at that, it's gone. So I'm left with 12y is equal to 24. And again, how do we get rid of a number that's directly next to a letter? Only division does that. Nothing else. So then we get y is equal to 24 divided by 12 is just 2. So then my y-intercept is, I remember, you got to be careful where you're putting your numbers. You found the y. That goes here. What's my x? Well, don't forget, you put in a 0. So I'm going to graph 0, 2 now. But I have to be on the y this time. So here's the y. I got to be here. It's a +2, so I know I'm going up here. There's my y-intercept again. It's touching the y, but now I'm ready. All I'm going to do is just draw my line right through these 2 points. And there is the equation of that linear function, or equation in this case. All right. So we're going to do one more. And again, you're going to practice this anyways in your assignment shortly. So that's why that doesn't have any you do's or you tries or practice problems, because you will be doing these on your own. All right. So last problem here of the day. Yes, it's a short set of notes because we just need you to practice. All right, so here's the equation again. There's an x, there's a y. This is standard form again. Look at what standard form looks like. The x and the y are on the same side of the equals. That's usually one of the little things we look at to recognize standard form. All right, here we go. I want to find x-intercepts. And if I want to find an x-intercept, then I don't want to see the letter y. I definitely want the x. I have to keep that 3. But I don't want to see the letter y, so I leave it nice and empty, right? Empty parentheses. And what do we plug in for the y? See, there's our 0. We want to have that 0 in there. And now 3 times 0, look at that. That's the great thing about it. It just instantly goes away. And if you notice, look at what I'm left with. There's the -9 on the right side. And on the left, look, I'm already done. That right there, my x-intercept then is, now remember, you got to put the number in the right spot. It says x is -9. Then your x goes first. And of course, what's my y value? Well, 0. Okay? Now again, clearly the graph isn't going to be good for us here. I think they looked at that too carefully there. But that's okay. We already have it. So 0 and then -9. All right, so that means it looks like we need to stretch this thing out here. Unfortunately, okay, let's go. All right, so that's -1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll just say that's -9 right there, and that's where we put our dot on the x-axis. So we did have to stretch it out a little bit. That's all right. We can easily do that. All right, well, all I need now is my y-intercept. So here we go. Y-intercept, just find the space to do it all here. Here's the same equation. I want to solve for y. What I don't want is that x right there. So if I see an x, I'm going to leave it empty for now. empty parentheses, plus 3y is equal to negative 9. You want a y-intercept? Well, then you better find the y. That's why I want to keep it. But remember, what do you automatically, for an intercept, turn the x into? Well, 0. And then because it's a 0, look, we can start ignoring it, leaving me with 3y is equal to negative 9. And then again, just like last time, how do you get rid of a number that's directly next to a letter? Only division can help there. So then we end up with y is equal to negative 3. And so my y-intercept, remember, you found a y value, that's my negative 3 right there where the y goes. And then, of course, my x has to be a 0. Now, when we draw it, don't forget, I am on the y. That's why it's called the y-intercept. I need to be on this line. And then it says negative 3, so you don't go up. That wouldn't make sense. We have to head down to negative 3. There's our dot. There's the negative 3. And then we're going to connect. And like I said, I know it's not perfect because we had to stretch it out. That's all right. We can make it work. And there's my equation. Or there's my graph of the line. So the next thing you need to do now is, well, get the practice in for this. So one of your assignments, obviously, for today is to work on your page 19. See, page 19 has a lot of these graphs. Like we just did them right here. Number 6 is just what we did. Number 7 is what we did. So yes, you're working on page 19. And I believe some of 20. Yep, you're going to be doing page 19 through 20. Remember, that is your first part of the assignment. And then hopefully you can get homework 3.4, that handout that's in your packet as well. Remember, that's on BIM, so hopefully you can get that done as well. All right, everybody, make sure you use the time wisely. Catch up on any of the missing work, and I'll see you when I see you.